There is a movement underway that has been gathering steam, mainly driven by the Democrats and the left, but also with the participation of some of the never-Trumpers. And it's a movement to block Donald Trump from getting on the ballot in all 50 states in 2024. Now, this is not a movement that says, hey, if Trump is in jail, he can't run. It's not a movement that says if Trump is convicted, he can't run. The theme of this movement, which is a legal movement and a political movement, and also a movement that is publicized and promulgated by the media, it is that Trump is ineligible to run now. In other words, he has already disqualified himself from being on the ballot, and that state officials at the state level, secretaries of state, election officials can, in fact, just take his name off the ballot. I mean, this is such an outlandish and radical idea that it deserves to be explored in some detail. Now, the advocates of this, I would say, unorthodox view say that Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, which is called the Disqualifications Clause, this was a clause that was put into the Constitution after the Civil War, it bars individuals who have, quote, engaged in insurrection or rebellion against America or aided in such from holding office. But it's also important to realize that there is another clause that comes right after that allows Congress to, quote, remove such disability via a congressional vote of 2/3 in each chamber. And as it turns out, Congress did, in fact, do that in two laws. So, in other words, shortly after the Civil War, Congress removed this so-called disqualification clause. Why? Because think about it. All the southern states began to make their way back in the Union. And was Congress going to say that all the people who fought for the Confederacy or were on the wrong side of the Civil War could never in the future run for office, even in the South, can't represent their own states? So Congress decided, no, they're not going to say that. Once these states were readmitted, they, in a sense, nullified the disqualification clause. So in 1872, there was the Amnesty Act, which removed the Section 3 disqualification and basically said that with certain exceptions, by and large, people who were in the military or people who even had served in both the Union or the Confederate Army could run for office. In 1898, there was a second Amnesty Act that basically even removed the qualification. So this disqualification clause, historically speaking, was overturned, was invalidated by Congress. Now, Congress cannot normally invalidate the Constitution, but remember, the Constitution itself had a clause that gave Congress this kind of power as to whether or not this act is to be applied or whether it is going to be nullified. And that is what Congress did. But nevertheless, you've got people who say, no, that might have been then, that might have been applicable to what happened after the Civil War, but we had an insurrection on January 6th. And remember, if you think back to 2022, there were some efforts on the part of people on the left to keep certain candidates. I believe there was even an effort to disqualify Marjorie Taylor Greene from running for re-election on the basis of the fact that, she made remarks supportive of the January 6th insurrectionists, so she is herself an insurrectionist. By the way, none of these efforts succeeded. And I don't think that they're likely to succeed even with Trump, but this is not to say that they're not going to be attempted. Let's think about it this way. When you think of all the blue states, it's a simple fact that even though Trump has not been charged, he's not been found guilty, he's not going to be found guilty of insurrection or incitement to rebellion, nevertheless, there are going to be some election officials in some states. They could be in California, they could be in Hawaii, in Colorado, in Oregon. I mean, think of all the different election officials in all the different states. It only takes officials in charge of one state or two states or four states to go, okay, well, you know what? We're just going to leave Trump off the ballot. And then what? Well, then it's going to go to the court. And state courts are going to have to weigh in on this, and probably ultimately it would have to go to the Supreme Court. Now, There are a number of legal analysts, including Jonathan Turley, who have weighed in on this, and they do not think that this will, you may say, hold water. They don't think it's going to survive ultimate scrutiny. But let's remember, again, ultimate scrutiny comes sort of at the end. There's a whole process in which you go to court, the court makes a decision, then you appeal, the appellate court makes a decision, then you appeal to the Supreme Court. So here is another, in my view, disruptive tactic that the left is using. I mean, the left's tactics here are of the shotgun variety. Let's not just take one big charge against Trump. Let's find the worst thing that he did and go after him because he might get acquitted. Let's have 91 charges because we're pretty sure we'll get convictions on one or at least some of those. And similarly here, let's try keeping him off the ballot because even if we get thwarted, at the best case scenario, he gets back on the ballot. So these are all, well, they're election interference schemes. And so, in a sense, when the left says our democracy is in peril, I have to agree our democracy is in peril from them. Debbie and I made a New Year's resolution to lose weight, and thankfully, PhD weight loss came to our rescue. Debbie's lost 24 pounds, I've lost 27. We both feel great, and we're now both officially on maintenance. The program is based on science and nutrition. No injections, no pills, no long hours in the gym, no severe calorie restriction, just good, sound, scientifically proven nutrition. It's so simple. They make it easy by providing 80% of your food at no additional cost. They tell you when and what to eat, and guess what? You can do this without ever being hungry. The founder, Dr. Ashley Lucas, has her PhD in chronic disease and sports nutrition. She's also a registered dietitian. She helps people lose weight and, most important, maintain that weight loss for life. So if you're ready to take the step of losing weight like Debbie and I have, call PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition. Here's the number, 864-644-1900. You can also find them online at myphdweightloss.com. The number again to call, 864-644-1900.